Hi everybody, it's Jess here and I've got Orson and we are about to do his 4-month update. Orson was 4 months on the 27th of July. I was supposed to do a 3-month update but didn't happen. There's 4-month update, and then the next one I'll do will be a 6-month update. So I've got some notes on my iPad that I can go through. Hopefully he will be content either sitting in my lap or in his bouncer. If not, I might have to stop and then continue filming when he's having a nap. So this is my little chunky boy. I haven't actually got a weight update, a recent one anyway. When you've got more than one, it's just like impossible to try and get the time to go and weigh them. Yeah, so I last weighed him on the 13th of June and he was 14 pounds 1 then, but we're 2 months on from then, so it's going to be loads more than that, and he's pretty heavy as well, so and I couldn't guess how much he weighs. So yeah, he's really strong. He is so fidgety, kicks out a lot, punches out a lot, and he was actually like that in the womb. Those of you that watched my pregnancy updates, you might have remembered me mentioning that he was just so active in there. And my first Guinevere, she wasn't really that active. Obviously I felt her move, but she didn't really kind of go crazy inside, whereas this one did, and actually it was quite painful. And now that he's out, I can totally see where it was from, because he just is thrashing around all over the place. He's actually quite frustrating to feed at the moment because he kind of is so fidgety and like wants to move positions and arch his back and everything, so feeding takes a little bit longer than it used to. So now I've started talking about feeding, I might as well kind of go on to that first of all. So I don't know if I mentioned it in my first update with him. My plan was to fully breastfeed. I had issues when I had Guinevere. I basically have an overactive letdown and an oversupply, and Guinevere had tongue tie and lip tie, and it turned out that basically the same scenario happened this time round. Breastfeeding was fine first of all, and then it was about 5 or 6 weeks that it then started getting really difficult, and he basically would not feed. It was just too overwhelming for him. So I exclusively pumped like I did with Guinevere, but I was desperate to breastfeed. One, because I knew that I couldn't keep up the exclusive pumping this time round. With Guinevere, I only had her, and I basically just became a hermit and stayed at home and pumped. Whereas I was already dropping loads of pumps on certain days because we were just so busy. You know, Guinevere has clubs and things that she needs to go to, and I was just missing out on pumps quite regularly. And it was really starting to affect my mental health. So I started seeing lactation consultants. I saw a couple from about 5 weeks and all the way up until about 3 weeks ago. So yeah, for about 10-11 weeks I saw a lactation consultant at least once a week, sometimes more than that. I also joined the La Leche League groups. Everybody was so helpful, but nothing changed. I tried different positions, I tried so many things that they recommended, and things just didn't improve. And then obviously by that point I think it was a mixture of it just not working and my oversupply was still there, but also the fact that he was now used to drinking breast milk from bottles. Anyway, I knew that I couldn't carry on like I was pumping. My mental health was getting, quite a battering, and I have been suffering with postnatal depression as well. So that was kind of, and I think that is a contributing factor. So I stopped pumping, I think it was the week before we went on holiday, so it was about 3 weeks ago. I feel a lot better. I feel free. I feel that I'm enjoying him more and also Guinevere more, because I was either feeding or pumping, and I was getting pretty stressed, and I just wanted to be able, and I started to feel quite resentful not resentful towards him, but it was a bit of a weird situation. I just kind of felt resentful that I was having to pump again, and it just wasn't going very well. Anyway, so I stopped pumping about 3 weeks ago, and I am still very emotional about it. I'm going to try and not talk about it too much, because I tend to cry when I talk about it. But anyway, so he is now fully on bottles, and he kind of feeds around every 3 to 4 hours still, and he can do anything from about 6 to 8 ounces. Sometimes just because of how the day's gone, and if I'm rushing out somewhere and he just needs to have a quick top-up feed, because I know that I'm going to be out a little bit longer and I need to give him some just to, so we might have 3 or 4 ounces then, but generally for a proper feed it's between 6 and 8 ounces. So in terms of sleeping then, so I'll go through what is kind of what happens generally, but we have also been going through the 4-month sleep regression, which has been really fun. And we were going through it when we had the epic heat wave in the UK. So it was just a miserable time, basically. Naps were not being had. Sleeping in the night wasn't really going well for any of us. Him, and also we weren't sleeping very well because it was just so blimmin' hot. And for Guinevere as well, she was waking up quite a lot because she was so hot. But luckily it's cooled down a little bit, although it is heating up again. But yes, we've been going through the 4-month sleep regression. I think it might be coming to an end. I hate talking about sleep because I don't want to jinx it, but he was basically not napping. I was getting kind of 10-20 minutes at the most with naps, which I kind of, I'm one of these weird people that I would rather they get up a couple of times in the night and have some decent naps in the day, because I need to actually get stuff done, especially when you've got other kids. He just wasn't napping very well. However, the past few days, they have been a lot better, and he's been having decent chunks of sleep. And in terms of sleeping at night, again, I don't want to jinx this, but he has been really good. Now, Guinevere didn't sleep through the night until she was about 15 months old. And he first slept through the night on this, I think it was 2nd of July, which is about a month ago. And he's, other than the sleep regression period and just a couple of odd nights, he has pretty much been sleeping through. Now, when I say sleeping through, we tend to put him to bed between 7 and 7:30. He doesn't sleep all the way through till morning. We do a dream feed at about 11, half 11. So he has that dream feed, and then we bring him into our room. So he sleeps in his cot in his own nursery for that first part of the evening, and then Phil will do a dream feed and then bring him in next to me in the snooze pod, which is there. And he normally wakes up about 6:30. However, he started to favour a 5 a.m. wake up, which I'm hoping is not going to carry on. I'm hoping it's just one of those weird things, because I know there are parents out there who have kids that wake up at 5 a.m. I don't want to be one of those people. I do not want to be one of those people. So keep your fingers crossed for me that changes. But yeah, he's started to favour a 5 a.m. wake up. So what we do is he normally wakes up, so let's ignore the 5 a.m. wake up call, because if he wakes up at 5 a.m. he's having a nap at about 5:30. But I'm just going to go by what's kind of generally been happening. So if he wakes up about 6:30, he'll then go back down for a nap about 8:30, and that's usually not for very long, maybe half an hour, because we've normally then got to go somewhere, like childcare or going out somewhere. And Guinevere starts preschool in September, so that's probably going to change things as well. So he might have to just nap in the buggy on the way. But yeah, so he goes down for a nap about 8:30 in the morning. And it's normally for about 30 minutes. Then he will have probably another little cat nap at about 11, depending on how long he slept for his earlier nap. So he might have a little cat nap then. Then I try to let him have a longer nap after lunchtime, around 1 or 2. And I can sometimes get an hour and a half, maybe 2. So for that afternoon nap, I can get an hour and a half, 2, if I'm really lucky. Sometimes it doesn't happen because we're out and, he just grabs naps here and then. But when we are at home, I do try to get him to have like proper naps, because he does sleep better in the night if he's had like consistent naps throughout the day. You'd think that if a baby hasn't slept all day, they'd sleep really well at night, but it does not work like that. It never has with any of my children. If they're overtired, forget about having a nice night's sleep that night. So I try to get him to have a consistent nap in the afternoon if we're at home. But he's a baby that cries a lot in his sleep, and he wakes quite a lot at the minute. And he'll cry for a bit, and then he'll go back to sleep. So sometimes I have to settle him a few times, but then I can normally get about an hour and a half out of him for that nap. And then he might have another cat nap later in the day, because if he wakes up for that nap, between 3 and 4, he can't go all the way through bedtime. So he sometimes, depending on how the nap was before, he might have a little 20-minute cat nap at some point. But I try not to let him go anything past 5 o'clock, because he has like a 7:30 bedtime. So from about 6:30, I start the bedtime routine. So, and that's basically bath, and he normally has a bath with his sister. So bath, story. I've started reading him stories, although he's obviously not really listening to them, but I have started reading little stories to him. And then fed, and then bed. He sleeps in, like I said, he has his naps and his first part of the evening sleep in his cot, but inside his sleepy head. And then I move the sleepy head into the snooze pod, and then he will finish off his night sleep in there. The sleepy head has hands down been the best thing that we've ever bought. When he grows out of it, I'm kind of thinking, what the hell is going to happen? Am I going to be lucky and just be able to transition him out of it, or do I need to buy the sleepy head? I think it's called Grande. So if any of you have a sleepy head, have you then gone on towards the bigger version? Let me know in the comments if it's worth getting or not, because I'm not looking forward to him growing out of it and then me not having anything to put him in. I suppose that's the downside of the sleepy head. But I do think it's definitely been a contributing factor to him sleeping through the night, because he's just really cosy and comfy in there. He's had all of his jabs now. He had his last set on the 24th of July, so he won't have any more now until he's just over 1. They all went okay. Obviously, he cried when he had them, but I didn't have any further complications with them, so that went all okay. He now rolls over from his back to his front. He hasn't mastered doing it the other way around yet, which is frustrating, because he loves rolling about. He loves rolling on his front. He thinks it's all great, and then he gets really fed up and he can't get back. So I have to rescue him like a stranded turtle. He giggles and smiles loads. He really loves his sister. He literally lights up when he sees her, and she is so good with him. She just loves to make him laugh and smile. He recognises Betty the dog, who is here, and our cats. He like follows them around the room when they walk in. He's putting everything in his mouth at the minute, you know, his hands. He started sucking his thumb as well. He does have a dummy. One of the main reasons we started with a dummy is because when I had the oversupply issue and he started, first of all, started struggling, feeds would only take 5 minutes, so he never got that comfort sucking. So, you know, we then kind of decided to give him a dummy, and he does like it, but I wouldn't say he's totally dependent on it. But sometimes it just, you know, chills him out a bit. Loads of dribbling at the moment. He's still a fairly sicky baby. It's definitely improved. He was terrible up until about a month ago, like just being sick all the time. Every feed, like that's why one thing I haven't done a lot of is baby wearing, even though I'm like really for it. He was just being sick all the time, so it has improved a bit, so I'm going to definitely start baby wearing a little bit more. He did, I don't know if I mentioned this in my last video, but we did book him in to see a cranial osteopath, which definitely made him a lot happier, because he had quite a, you know, strenuous birth. So I definitely recommend cranial osteopath for babies. I am supposed to be doing a separate video on that, but I've just had zero time to do videos or blog posts or anything like that. I'll just quickly talk about postpartum with me, so how my recovery's gone, because I haven't really talked about that. Just a word of warning though, this might be TMI. Obviously, birth and recovery from birth is a bit yucky sometimes, so if you're not into hearing about stuff like that, then end the video now. So I had quite a lot of tearing post-birth. I had clitoral tears, labial tears, yeah, just a lot of tears. It was horrendous, I'm not going to lie. The stinging, the going to the toilet, you know, it's horrible. Those who have been through it know exactly what I'm talking about. The squirty bottle, I'll try and remember to leave a link below, that I got from Amazon, which is basically like a squirty bottle with like a small shower head on it. Fill that with warm water, and when you're going to the toilet, kind of squirt it down there. That was just made it so much better. Definitely recommend buying one of those before you have a baby, so that you've got it ready to go. And also the Tux pads, which are like these pads with this like medicated witch hazel stuff on it. They were really good to kind of press down there, or to kind of, I put them inside my pants to like as a cooling effect. But I'd probably say that it was really horrible for about 3 weeks, and then it started getting a lot better, and then I stopped using the squirty bottle. I did have an infection in my womb, which complicated things a little bit, so that was a nightmare. But and I had lost a lot of blood in the birth as well, so yeah, I had a postpartum hemorrhage, so I had blood loss, so my recovery took a little bit longer because of that as well. But I'd say I started feeling pretty good around the 5-week mark. Just a, you know, a little bit tender still, but for the main part, I felt kind of back to normal. I've now had 2 periods since since birth. They were, yeah, heavier than they used to be, but I've kind of expected that for a while. Oh, my postpartum. Oh, hi. My postpartum bleeding stopped probably around about, it kind of stopped at about week 4, but then it would really annoyingly not happen for a few days, so I'd be like, oh, I don't need to wear any pads anymore, and then it would come back for like a few days. But I'd say it properly stopped about week 6 or 7. So yeah, that's our 4-month update. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks for being patient. I know I'm not really getting videos out very often at the moment. It's just one of those things, just juggling time. My next video is hopefully going to be my newborn favourites. So make sure you look out for that. Anyway, thanks very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.